Tonight on News 5 Live, 2 men are murdered in separate stabbing incidents in Corozal. A man is arrested for the killing of Kejon Roches. The NTUCB, BNTU and CWU growing restless over a number of issues. Trouble at a primary school where a student attempts to stab a teacher. We'll hear from a former soldier about the culture of the BDF. And we go to snowy Salt Lake, Utah, where Hippolyte Novello is covering the Dermond trial. Details of these stories and more coming up in tonight's newscast.
No trick.
Welcome to News 5 Live from Monday, February 3rd. I am Marlene Cuellar. There were 2 stabbing deaths over the weekend, and both happened in the same village up north. Death came for Daniel Cano as he was hanging out and having a good time with friends at a house in the village. Cano was stabbed multiple times during an altercation by a relative of his friend just past midnight on Sunday. Cano was transported to the nearest hospital in Corozal for treatment, but died. While the suspect fled the scene, he has been apprehended by the police. News 5's Dwayne Moody files this report.
The first death investigation by police for Corozal district since the start of the new year is from the village of Concepcion. A night of drinking and socializing between a group of friends ended with Daniel Cano being stabbed multiple times to the body by his friend's nephew. Antonio Anderson says they were all gathered at his house in the village when the incident occurred.
We were good, we were having a good moment and we were drinking a couple beers. And he was there, right? Okay, when then, the young man reached there, which is my nephew, right? He arrived with his car and then he entered the house and he was there and I even present them, the 2 of them, both of them, right? And they were conviving there and there was 2 of my sisters-in-law watching TV, and then the guy that did this, he went to see one of my sisters-in-law because they have one baby. And now we were drinking and having the moment, right? And then we went to Libertad. I borrowed my nephew's car and we went to Libertad because my friend told me that he wanted to buy some more beers and something else, right? And then the man told me, I'm going home. He told me, right? I'm going home, and I tell him it's okay then. And he told me, give me 2 more beers, one for the way and one for when I reach home, I'll drink it. And I gave him the 2 beers. And I have one bench outside of my house, and he sit down there, and he was talking to my nephew. Okay. So they were talking, and I told the man, I'm going for some cigarettes. And I entered my house. When I came out, I see that, and I saw that the deceased was with my wife. He was standing with one piece of stick, but then I see he can't move, and I say, what happened to you, Daniel? And he didn't answer me, and when I see he dropped down, but before he dropped down, I saw when my nephew was coming toward him, so I pushed him, and I told him, if you did come here only if you do trouble, go out of my house, right? I chased him out, and then when the man dropped, I get in a hurry and I went to see what happened. And when he dropped, he only told me 2 times. He stabbed me. And then I pick up the man and I was shaking him up and talking to him. Daniel, please, no leave me. We are here. Stay with us, right? And I was shouting for help to people come out, right, and help me. And my sisters-in-law came out and they tried to help me. And one of them take one foot, the next one take the next foot, and I take him up, and we take him out as we could, right?
The nephew, who lives in Paraíso village, Corozal, escaped in his vehicle. Anderson says that they rushed Cano to the Corozal Community Hospital, where he succumbed to the injuries. He quickly informed police of what had happened, and the suspect was detained. Police have tagged the incident as a death investigation and not a murder. Senior Superintendent Gilberto Romero explains.
An investigation was conducted which revealed that he was at a residence in Concepcion village, and he was involved in a fight with another male person who inflicted the injuries on him. One person is in custody. An investigation has been conducted. Statements are recorded, interviews done, and we will forward the statements to the DPP for directives as to what the charge should be.
As I understand it, you all are calling it a death investigation and not a murder investigation because there may be an element of self-defense involved. He was on another person's property. When
yes, based on those circumstances, and the DPP will be the one to direct what charge to be levied.
According to the Cano family, the deceased and his alleged killer were unacquainted with each other. Anderson believes, however, that his nephew mortally injured his friend because Cano was socializing with the mother of his child.
Maybe he thought like the deceased went to see his girlfriend or something, like he get jealous because before he left, he told me, he told one of my sisters-in-law that 3-6 were left, and he said tomorrow we are going to drink it. Tomorrow we're going to drink the 3-6.
So maybe he got jealous. Your nephew got jealous.
I think he got jealous.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
The village which lies along the Philip Golson Highway is not known for violence. So when a second body was discovered over the weekend, it sent the community in shock. Someone stabbed and killed Juan David Mendez and left his body on a dirt road. It was found in a pool of blood by his nephew around 7 o'clock in the morning. News 5's Dwayne Moody was in the village and also reported on this homicide.
Within hours of the first killing recorded in Concepcion Village, the body of yet another resident was discovered on a dirt road in the village. Juan David Mendez had also been stabbed once to the abdomen and hemorrhaged to death. While it is believed that he was stabbed overnight, his body was discovered by his nephew and brother around 7 o'clock on Sunday morning. According to his mother, they initially thought that he got drunk and passed out, but later realized that he was lying in a pool of his own blood.
A mí me avisaron que lo buscaron allá.
I was informed that they found him dead around 7 in the morning. My other son told me that my grandson found him on the ground. My son went checking and discovered him on the ground. Then they called the police to come to the scene. They thought that he was drunk and passed out on the ground. But he got off the bicycle and realized that his uncle was in a pool of blood. He then ran to notify his father, and so he confirmed that he was on the ground bleeding. He was sleeping over that side with my other son. He stayed there. Some days he spent over there and other days here at his house. But I don't know if he had any problem with anyone or what happened.
Juanita Mendez says her son had no problems with anyone. Juan David lived next door to her, but frequently stayed with his older brother, who lived just a short distance from where his body was discovered. Information reaching Juanita is that residents heard her son asking for help.
Según los vecinos dicen que estaba cerca allá.
The neighbors say that they heard him shouting for help, but no one came out to look. And because I live over this side, I didn't know anything. If I was close by, I would have come out to help, because nobody would leave someone's child to be killed.
Investigation so far has since revealed that this homicide is unrelated to the stabbing death of Cano. News 5 has also been told that a resident from the neighboring village of Libertad is currently in custody as the alleged suspect in the murder of Juan David Mendez.
An investigation has been conducted. One person is in custody and is expected to be charged sometime today.
Is there any known dispute that he had been involved in?
We do not know if any formal dispute, but the evidence is showing that somebody attacked him and inflicted this stab onto him.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
Police have arrested and charged one man for the shooting of Kajon Roches. Today, Adrian Swayze appeared before the court where he was charged with a single count of murder. He was denied bail and remanded until May 4th. Roches was shot and killed in Belize City on Thursday night. Today, police told the press that the deadly bullet was not meant for Roches, but for another man who was in the area.
Reference the fatal shooting of Kajan Tony Roches, which occurred on Thursday night. On Sunday, police arrested and charged Adrian Clad Swayze, 22 years, for that shooting incident.
Do you know if the suspect or the accused was targeting this individual for any particular reason, Mr. Roches?
For what we understand and what the investigation is showing us is that Mr. Roches was not the target, but it was somebody else who was along with them.
So he was wrong place, wrong time.
He frequents that area there.
There were several shootings in the city on Sunday. The shootings all happened in a small area, and police say that at least 2 of the incidents may be connected. Earlier today, police told the media that several persons have been detained for each of the shootings, but up to news time, no one has been charged. Superintendent Alejandro Co gives us the details of the shooting.
The first one was reported just after 11 in the morning when Mr. Nicodemus Rodriguez, 29 years, Belizean, was cleaning a yard on Consuelo Street. Whilst he was cleaning the yard, he was approached by a male person who fired several shots at his direction, causing him to receive a gunshot injury to his body. He was transported to the Calhoun Memorial Hospital, where he was treated and discharged hours later. After police were processing that scene on Consuelo Street, they were called to the Genosha Boulevard area, where they also got information of shots being fired. And as a result, a minor was seen with an apparent gunshot wound to the body. He was transported to the hospital, and he also was treated and discharged on that night. What we got so far is that the minor and a brother were repairing a vehicle on the street side when a vehicle stopped and fired several shots at them, injuring the minor. Just after that, about 10 minutes later, Mr. Peter Castillo was under his house in the Genosha Boulevard area, cleaning up the yard, when he heard some noises coming out of a bush. When he realized he heard several shots being fired. Later on, he realized that he was shot to the body. He also was transported to the hospital, where he was treated and discharged on the night.
And then one other man was shot at in that same area by the corner of Genosha.
That incident with Mr. Ronald Pennell, 31 years, he's alleging that he was in front of a restaurant on Genosha Boulevard when he was approached by a male person who fired several shots at his direction, but only the vehicle received a bullet hole. He escaped unhurt. I can tell you that probably the shooting with the minor and the shooting with Mr. Castillo, they might be related, but the shooting with Nicodemus and Mr. Pennell, I don't believe that they are connected to each other. We know that that area in the Genosha, there are different rivalries in that area, and it is suspected that it was one of the rival groups that went to do the shooting at Gongas, the minor, and it was also believed that it was the shooting with Peter Castillo was a retaliation for the shooting of the minor.
Emery Gonzalez was brutally attacked by 3 men while he and a woman waited at the entrance of Old Belize on the George Price Highway. The attack happened over the weekend, and Gonzalez was injured on his face and head. The ugly incident was caught on video, and while police has determined the motive for the brutal attack, they're not yet providing the details.
Police are investigating this matter. I believe that Mr. Gonzalez was readmitted at the hospital this morning. We have interviewed him for a very short time. But what we have gathered so far is that he was in the company of a female person, and they went to Old Belize to deal with some situation there. And whilst waiting out there, a vehicle came, 3 persons came out of the vehicle, and he was brutally attacked by these 3 male persons. So we have identified them, and police are looking for them at this moment. He had some injuries to his body. He was treated on Saturday. I believe he was discharged late in the night, but again he is complaining of some pain, and that's why he revisited the hospital again. So he's still presently admitted at this time.
The start of classes at Trial Farm Government School in Orange Walk District was delayed for 2 hours this morning as teachers met with Ministry of Education officials. The meeting was convened because a Standard 2 teacher had been assaulted by a 9-year-old student. Carmen Aviles told News 5 today that the teachers have been battling with a number of behavioral disorders from children who resort to violence to express themselves. Well, on January 31st, Aviles says she intervened in a fight between 2 students from her classroom, and that's when one of the students pulled a pencil and attacked her. She grabbed his hand to prevent it from happening, and the young boy then started kicking her to the leg. 3 days later, and the bruises she sustained are still visible. Aviles recounted what happened.
2 children were having a quarrel, and I tried to see what was going on, but the child refused to tell me what was going on. When I asked him, he was just angry. He just wanted to get out his angriness. So That's when I asked him to please step outside of the classroom. But when I asked him to step out, that's when he pulled out a pencil and he was going to give me with it. So I told him no. And then I just hold his hand so that he can let go the pencil. But at the same time, a struggle started. And then, you know, he started kicking and just kicking up me.
It's the first time that you're encountering something like this?
No, not the first time. But you see, this one has been in that way because the children from my classroom started to cry because they were very, very frightened of the situation that was going on. So me being the teacher, I was frightened also because I said this child cannot be doing that. You know, it just calling him to come and explain what was going on.
Now, how does the institution address things like this? Because I understand that is a concern right now. Yeah.
Well, actually, that situation happened on Friday afternoon, which nothing was done immediately. You understand me? I believe that something like that happens, that needs to be addressed there at that same time. But unfortunately, it wasn't done that way. So what we did was to get the other teachers' support, and we decided that no, that cannot continue going on in the classroom because it's not only myself being attacked in the classroom. There are different situations and different timing that those things have been happening. But then nobody wants to stand up, but I said no, we need to address it.
News 5 spoke with the district education manager, who says that the meeting today gave the teachers an opportunity to be heard and that they are reviewing protocol to address situations like these. Reporter Hippolyta Novello is currently in snowy Salt Lake City, Utah, where the case of Lev Derman is taking place. The sitting was postponed this morning and resumed in the afternoon. As you know, Derman is accused in a billion-dollar tax fraud, and his business partner Jacob Kingston has made allegations linking Minister John Saldivar to Derman. Here is Hippolyta Novello.
Derman continued today in the U.S. District Court of Utah. This morning's session was cancelled because of the snowstorm, but it resumed this afternoon. And the prosecution called one of the witnesses, Greg Perm, a broker. He acted sort of like a linkage between Lev Derman, according to the prosecution, and other key players such as the Kingston brothers and several companies involved in this multi-million-dollar scheme. Belize was mentioned once in this afternoon's session, and that was when the prosecution was trying to establish what sort of meetings, how many meetings Lev Derman had with Mr. Kingston and the witness, Mr. Perm, and you know, if they traveled together, if they held parties together, if they had lunch together, if they had dined together. And one of the things that the witness said is that they took international trip. They were asked where, he said Belize, but he wasn't so sure about the destination. So the defense attorney objected to that as speculation and moved a motion to have that statement stricken out of the record. So, and the judge complied with it. So even though the witness said or thought that, or believed that the international trip that Lev Derman and Jacob took was to Belize, that is not on the record because of the motion to have that struck off the record. But we do know that in 2013, it was the same period they were speaking about, is when Derman received his Belizean nationality, and that came out in the Auditor General's report, and there was no nationality file found for him. Now, that was the only context Belize was mentioned today. Tomorrow, Jacob Kingston, who alleges that he exchanged text messages with Minister of National Security John Saldivar, is scheduled to testify on Tuesday and on Wednesday. We're not sure what exactly he will say. We're not sure what the questioning of the prosecution will be, but we're hoping that the context of those text messages will be revealed. Now, just to put it out there. Remember, if it's WhatsApp messages, it's encrypted, and these individuals involved in this alleged scam spoke code words. So even though it is alleged that a government minister received bribes about $25,000 monthly, we're not sure if the text messages will be direct. They would be using code message. But we'll see what comes out of court on Tuesday and Wednesday with the testimony of Jacob Kingston. I'll be in court the entire day on Tuesday and Wednesday, and I'll be keeping our viewers updated on Facebook and, of course, during the nightly news. My name is Hippolyta Novella, reporting from Salt Lake City, Utah for Channel 5 News.
Coming up, there is a call for action from the unions on the UNCAC education rules and stevedoring.
Leadership
The trade unions are galvanizing, and this time they're taking aim at government on a number of issues that are pertinent to their respective organizations. Today, the Christian Workers Union met with the Ministry of Trade and Investment to discuss a labor concern. That was followed by a press conference called by the National Trade Union Congress of Belize, during which BNTU President Elena Smith represented the teachers' union at the head table. We will get to those stories shortly. However, since we continue to provide extensive coverage on the Lev Derman trial, we will begin with the NTUCB's take on the ongoing scandal. The umbrella organization says that it is fully aware of the public outrage in the wake of allegations made against Minister of National Security John Saldivar, but that it has not been discussed thoroughly amongst its membership. This afternoon, President Marvin Mora weighed in on the matter from the perspective of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption.
The National Trade Union Congress of Belize usually goes through a process of discussion where we look at the matter at hand. If it's a matter of national importance, and if it's a matter that will adversely affect our country, we foment discussions based on evidence and facts that are brought forward. The issue of Lev Derman and his accusations levied at one of our ministers and elected official has not been ventilated at NTUCB as yet. I can tell you though that if any improprieties are found to be, obviously the NTUCB will 100% be against those. In fact, it is because of issues like these that the NTUCB has found it absolutely necessary to pen down the resolution that have us here today. Honestly, we would be fighting a losing case if it is that the UNCAC recommendations are not implemented, because we will be fighting a war where we don't have any teeth. So the legislation that needs to be in place first have to go in so that we can put our case together, whether NTUCB goes at it alone or we synchronize efforts with other NGOs and other bodies that are interested to be able to mount a legal challenge if we have to.
Attorney General Michael Parafit, when lastly gave an update on the implementation of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption in December of last year, reported that the UN had informed government that it had made no sense to proceed with the UNCAC-related initiatives until a full report from Tuvalu and Haiti have been submitted. That new piece of information was shared with the media following a letter written by the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry to the AG's ministry. The National Trade Union Congress of Belize has also been hard on the AG's heels in respect of that matter. Today, the representative body of all trade unions in the country called a press conference to give government an ultimatum. Show us that you were doing something meaningful with UNCAC by month end, or else. According to Hubert Enriquez, there are recommendations from the executive summary of a pending report that can be implemented in the interim.
Our understanding is a bit different. We feel that we have always known, because we've been to trainings, which also includes the AG, and they have actually spoken about those processes. And we've always known that the executive summary, what is published, was published based on the final report. It's an executive summary of what's the real thing. And so it actually puzzles us to hear that no action is taken, because the summary gives recommendations, and those recommendations could actually be implemented. And so we really are puzzled by the response that was got.
Will the NTUCB, as mighty as it is with the combined force of all Belize's large trade unions, will the NTUCB issue a consequence against the government of Belize?
Obviously, Jules, first we start by providing the Belizean public with the position of the NTUCB. Our resolution has made it absolutely clear that if the month of February expires and we do not see any substantial movement on behalf of government, as you expressed, they've been going through the motions, but we have not seen anything substantial. If we don't see anything anything being done by government of consequence that would signify to us their willingness to continue with the implementation of the UNCAC, then obviously the NTUCB will be left with absolutely no other recourse than to escalate this process. The NTUCB is within its own right to determine how and when they will escalate this process.
While the NTUCB has given government until the end of the month to prove itself, the Congress says it is equally mindful of the adverse effects that its actions may have on the citizenry should it decide to call a shutdown. It is why, according to Mora, it has embarked on an advocacy campaign to compel government to address the issue.
We have to keep in mind, like I explained from the beginning of this presentation, of the repercussions of what the NTUCB can do not only to the government of Belize, but the effects that it will have and the negative impact that it will have on our countrymen. For that reason, we have to act responsibly. First, by advocating what our position is, which is what we're doing here today. We are here simply because we don't feel that the process is moving. If you notice the timelines that were provided by the brother in his presentation, are showing us that we are really lagging behind in the process. By now, we should already have seen most of the things that have been articulated within the executive summary, which are very clear and straightforward. If you take some time to read the executive summary, pinpoint exactly what it is that is being recommended for the government of Belize to implement, you will realize that there is absolutely nothing that is stopping the government of Belize from proceeding with implementation of those recommendations on the first instance. Because of that, then, the NTUCB has started this process of advocation. But at the same time, we're insisting upon the government of Belize and those people who are in the positions that can continue with the process to do so.
Standing in solidarity with BNTU and the plight of its membership, the National Trade Union Congress of Belize committed to having the teachers back as they continue to grapple with the Ministry of Education over the existing education rules. The NTUCB says that it is unreasonable for government to be pushing around teachers in the manner that it is doing.
The Belize National Teachers Union is a bona fide and a certified trade union, and also a staunch, very powerful member of the National Trade Union Congress of Belize. We find it absolutely necessary to publicly express our full and unconditional support in addressing the issues that they're being confronted with regarding the passage of SIs, changing the teaching rules without meaningful discussion and consultation with those people who form the leadership core of the Belize National Teachers Union. We find it absolutely ridiculous that they're being pushed around and not given the chance to sit down in earnest and make some meaningful suggestions as to how else the issues at hand can be addressed. We realize, yes, we realize that the government of Belize is within its right to do certain things to be able to address issues in regards to the education in our country, and we're in full agreement that that must be done. But we also realize that the Belize National Teachers Union represent the best interests of the teachers across this country.
BNTU President Elena Smith was also present at this afternoon's press conference, which was held at its headquarters here in Belize City. Aside from the full support that the Teachers Union is getting from the NTUCB, the question of whether they will take advantage of government's encumbered state was put to her. Smith's response was straightforward. The union will no longer put up with government's continued disrespect for teachers, and they do not need to strike while the scandal-ridden administration is at its weakest.
Do you all sense that because the government is weak right now, it is a time for you all to try to use your leverage against them for an advantage? And this is the nature of any contest. It's not opportunism. It's how struggles are.
Jules, let me say very clearly that BNTU does not need to attack anybody when they're at their lowest. We are prepared for them at any time. So this is not a time that we can say we are being advantageous. We have, as we've said before publicly, we have tried our very best to work with this ministry. We've had meetings with them, we've had discussions with them, conversations with them, to try to resolve these issues amicably without having to resort to any type of industrial action. And we've seen where it has not worked. The ministry continues to disrespect our union and our teachers, and we are at the point where we will no longer tolerate such disrespect, and for them to forget that BNTU is a legal entity that addresses our teachers' concerns, our teachers' well-being. Oftentimes the ministry chooses to go to other bodies to discuss matters of the profession as opposed to coming to the union. And so we will no longer allow that.
The BNTU is also calling on the government to slow down the fast-moving train in respect of the Equal Opportunities Bill. The BNTU points out that the bill has far-reaching implications for many sectors, so it requires ample and detailed educational forums. The BNTU is undertaking to ensure that teachers receive the facts about the contents of the bill, and so it intends to share much-needed information to its membership. The union is requesting that the process be decelerated to give way for educational forums. The Christian Workers Union also met today in a lengthy session with Minister of State Tracy Panton to discuss several issues that are affecting waterfront workers at the Port of Belize in respect of the sugar industry. For decades, stevedores have played an integral role in the loading process for cargo ships leaving harbor with sugar for the export market. Tonight, their livelihoods are being threatened by the effects of last year's drought, as well as a pending move to commence the trucking of sugar overland to the Big Creek port in Independence. CW President Evan Mose-Hyde says that in the face of these concerns, ASR-BSI has been eerily quiet.
They are very, very concerned about the sugar. Two aspects about the sugar. Of course, we understand that the sugar industry has been impacted by the drought. But before that, there had been rumors about ASR relocating its transshipment point from Port of Belize to Big Creek, which would be a significant withdrawal of revenue from stevedores. Like the annually about $2 million come from sugar. That's not chump change. And so they have been asking the union to find out what's the situation with sugar. And so we have been doing that from about July of last year, reaching out to ASR to say, listen, our members want to know what's taking place. They have been absolutely silent on giving us details as to exactly what their plan is. So we are operating from the dark here. We hear rumors, that's the most we get. And so there's a level of frustration, there's a level of tension that exists with stevedores because of what the implications are. Add to that now the difficulties in sugar where you have a delayed commencement, uncertainty as to, well, if it is going to come through Port of Belize, when exactly does it begin? And so absolutely appreciate the fact that Minister Panton, with whom we met along with the Prime Minister last year to engage them on this issue, was available today to speak directly to the members to say what is happening. And so we are talking here, in a nutshell, it's money. It's livelihood, it's jobs, the ability to pay your bills. And that is what the stevedores have been asking for, and that is the bottom line behind the level of angst, the level of frustration that they feel. And I think the fact that ASR has been so inadequate and so terrible at communicating clearly and consistently, I think that that has added a level of emotional edge to it, because now you feel like you're being disrespected.
News 5 also spoke with Junior Minister Panton, who says she will register those concerns with cabinet colleagues, including Minister of Finance Prime Minister Dean Barrow.
The concern has to do with their livelihoods, essentially, and the fact that we have had a drought, and so there's going to be a delay in the shipment of the crop this year. They also feel that they have not received the responses they hope for from both the sugar producer in the north, SR, and from the Port of Belize Limited, as it relates to some long-term plan to ensure that there's a sustainable approach to how we deal with the shipment of sugar from Belize, and also how we deal with securing their livelihoods. I certainly can't speak for ASR or PBL, but I was able to share with the stevedores what are some of the things we have done to ensure that we can continue to have a sustainable sugar industry. From my point of view in the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Commerce, and certainly the success we had at COTED in November with CARICOM member countries, and the economic cooperation agreement we are soon to sign with Taiwan, which has a quota for sugar from Belize, that those things are part of the long-term plan. There are immediate concerns, the day-to-day bread and butter issues. And so I will go back to Cabinet and I will share those concerns so that the other relevant ministries who are involved in this conversation, the Ministry of Agriculture and also the Ministry of Labor.
The Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industries issued a statement on the unprecedented ruling on Friday in which Chief Justice Kenneth Benjamin struck down the Petro-Caribe Loans Act and declared the government spending of approximately over $1 billion as unconstitutional. The BCCI recalls that in 2005, social partners supported the amendment of the Finance and Audit Reform Act as a necessary step to ensure increased accountability and transparency in public spending. Consequently, it says that when the government first offended the FARA and sought to retroactively repair its breach via the Loans Act, there was widespread objection from the public as well from the BCCI and non-government senators. The BCCI says it holds the same position as it did in 2015 when it was alarmed that the government retroactively validated what were clear violations of the FARA. So now it welcomes the confirmation provided by the judiciary. According to the BCCI, quote, government's cavalier treatment of the foundational principles of rule of law is completely unacceptable, as this encourages both individual and institutional corruption. This also further diminishes any credibility that the government is committed to the implementation of the framework of the UN Convention Against Corruption, unquote. The BCCI also urges government not only to address this specific instance in which it has violated the Constitution, but also past and current instances of individual and institutional corruption, and to do so with the urgency required. After the break, a former captain exposes the abusive culture in the BDF. Oh, won't you stay for Since her first story aired about the allegations of assault, extortion, and abuse at the BDF, the Ministry of National Security has assigned a team to investigate the reports. As the investigations take place, we were told that officers assigned to the training school were separated from the recruits before their passing out ceremony on Friday. The scale of these allegations goes back decades, and they also extend beyond the training school. A former soldier who knows of this firsthand is Dericia Castillo. She's a former captain of the BDF and has been vocal about this misogynistic and abusive culture at the BDF. As we told you on Friday night, Castillo has started an online petition to ask the Human Rights Commission of Belize to investigate the allegations. In our interview, Castillo shared that the first time she experienced the sexual harassment was when she was just a trainee. She says that fortunately, she reported it and it was dealt with swiftly back then. But when she was sexually assaulted and she reported the matter, the environment at the BDF felt like a different place. Many colleagues were cold and indifferent to what she had gone through. She says that her case isn't the only one.
The environment after that, I must say, was very toxic. Toxic particularly because you try to continue working, but you keep hearing, if you smile too much, you hear, oh, she's too friendly, that's why that happened. If you decide to take a drink on camp, it's outside of working hours, oh, that is why that happened to her.
Blame the victim.
It's always victim blaming, yeah, it's always victim blaming. I remember running, and I used to wear leggings, and I would pass the females' accommodation and hear, oh, that's why that happened to her. There's issued kit, she's supposed to wear the kit. So it's always creating an environment of where it's your fault. It's because of you it happened. I even remember going to court and the questions asked by the lawyer was, oh, but you're an officer. You're supposed to be strong enough to push him off. So how couldn't you push him off? Or you're an officer. Why didn't you go straight to the police station? And I told him outright, I may have been I am an officer, but I was a victim at that time.
Castillo says that she believes it has never been the BDF's priority to address the issue, but she calls on other women who have experienced the abuse to come forward and speak out. She says that while she is happy to see that for the first time a thorough investigation has been commissioned, she believes that there is still a need for an independent team to look at those reports of abuses.
I don't think it has ever been a priority in the Belize Defense Force to address these allegations. I've seen where generals have come in and tried to address fraternizing, tried to address small little issues as opposed to the fact that there is an act that's out there protecting us as people out here. So why not create that environment within the Belize Defense Force? And for me, I think it's very important that that has to be done gender neutral. Because while I'm speaking on my experience, there are some men who've experienced it from women of higher rank and higher seniority. So I don't think it's ever been a priority because from both the men and women perspective, there is a level of advantage it gives to them.
Right. So hearing these recent allegations, it wasn't surprising.
None at all, none at all. Because it's been so constant and we sit there and we hear it and then it just falls apart because you hear, oh, the most that has ever happened with these allegations has been demotions or transfer. And these are for criminal matters. That's the most that has happened. And it's unfortunate because it's hidden within the Belize Defense Force. And rather than creating a system that fixes it, we send these people back out into the world. We send them around their families. We send them around children. We send them around, we send them out to contaminate the wider population as opposed to addressing it the right way. There's a lot of support out here that the women within the Belize Defense Force might feel intimidated to get in contact with. There needs to be a change. There needs to be a change. Like I told you, I've grown up with the military. I've always said BDF Day is my birthday because every year the festivities are right around my birthday. So I have the Belize Defense Force at heart, and I want to see the Belize Defense Force better. I know the opportunities it has given to me, and I want that opportunity to exist for other women. So in order for them to be able to flourish within that system, there needs to be something in place to fix the system that's broken.
How do you think the independent investigation would help in that?
It would help particularly because while I appreciate the team that's been put together, I mean, it's for the first time in sexual offense cases, they've actually put together a police team to look into these issues. However, I think there needs to be an independent team because it's pretty much Big Brother checking what little brother is doing. So there's always the possibility of, okay, you know, worry about that. When I tell daddy what happened, when I tell mommy what happened. So there is the possibility of that happening. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there is the possibility of it happening. And also, there needs to be something outside of just the criminal investigation. There needs to be a human rights portion of it, where they can look at what exists and how the Belize Defense Force can adopt it.
If you would like to support the online petition, you can find the links on Facebook or at change.org. And on the topic of the BDF, today we spoke with a former major in the BDF, Oscar Mira. He is retired from the force, but when the news broke, he took to social media to condemn the allegations coming out of the BDF. Today he told us that he also believes that the investigation should have been handed over to the Belize Police Department and not a team that was put together by the Ministry of National Security. Mira says that those allegations of abuse are not new, and while they should have been addressed a long time ago, decisive action should be taken now to hold the perpetrators accountable.
There has been those allegations, and there has been investigations. I wasn't privy to see what the investigations brought out, but like I said, in the past, there have been instances of fraternization. We should have started acting on it from a long time ago. You know, we cannot condone these kinds of actions in the Belize Defense Force. Officers are at a higher level of integrity and honesty and all of those good things that they teach us at school, and we should be kept at the higher standard of level of standard. I think since it is out now, I think we should do everything possible. I do not feel that a court of inquiry is enough. A court of inquiry would come up with recommendations, and these recommendations are used only to ensure that it doesn't happen again. It cannot be used, any evidence gathered cannot be used in any military proceeding or any disciplinary proceeding against any member of staff who was found to be guilty of such. So I think that something else other than a court of inquiry needs to be done. I also read that the ministry had appointed a team to do investigations. Now, when I look at the composition of that team, I see it's being, there are some senior police officers, some retired police officers, and a member of the Ministry of National Security. I think it's the administrative officer. I do not believe that they have any jurisdiction. I don't believe that they have in any way the powers to ensure that the persons who have done these wrongs are charged, first of all, and that this doesn't happen again. So I believe that if the recruits and those members of the Belize Defense Force who allege and make the report against any member, then, you know, if it's a criminal offense, then the police should take up this investigation and bring charges against just like anybody else. But we need to start investigating and holding these persons responsible. If you, for some reason, you know, there's an investigation and it is found that you have done something wrong, then you should be punished. And there is the Belize, the BDF Defense Act, there's the standing operating procedures that we need to adhere to, and then there's also the laws of Belize, that if it is a criminal act, then the police department should look into it, investigate, and the charges should be laid.
When we come back, the body of Chris Gentle is found. Police say the cause of death is drowning.
Now is the time to sign up for the best postpaid plans in the country.
A post-mortem conducted today on the body of Chris Gentle shows that he died from asphyxia due to drowning. Gentle's body was discovered on Saturday morning sometime just before 7:30. Gentle reportedly told his fishing party that he would stay behind on Bannister Key to fish. He was on the key along with one other person who reported to police that Gentle left to fish in his canoe and never returned. Superintendent Alejandro Coa tells us more.
At about 7:20 a.m., police and Coast Guard visited an area near the Bannister Key, where they observed the decomposed body of Chris Gentle floating on the sea. The body was retrieved from the sea and thereafter transported to the hospital awaiting a post-mortem examination. What we know is that Mr. Gentle was reported missing last week by family members and that he had went fishing along with others and he was left behind in the island. Apparently he went fishing, and that is when family members went on the following day and found that he was not on the island, and they began to do a search of the area, and it was until Saturday morning that his body was discovered.
Any foul play suspected?
No.
Anthony Parks has died as a result of gunshot injuries he sustained on January 22nd. As we reported last month, Parks was shot multiple times, and police had arrested and charged Shane Bennett, who is presently at the prison on an attempted murder charge. Police say that since Parks has succumbed, the file will be sent to the DPP to determine if the charge will be upgraded to murder.
He referenced the shooting incident involving Anthony Parks on Saturday, the 1st day of February 2020. He succumbed to his injuries at the Carl Hosha Memorial Hospital. Consultation will be now made with the DPP to upgrade the charge for murder.
Shane Bennett has been remanded.
Yes, he is remanded to custody.
Coming up after the break, there is an arrest in the shooting of a cop on Map Street.
I am Ivan Williams, standard bearer for Standard.
Free your back.
Police have arrested and charged one man for firing shots at a police constable. In last week's news, we reported on how PC William Woodeye narrowly escaped a hail of bullets in the Map Street area. Woodeye was on a motorcycle when shots were reportedly fired in his direction, and as a result, PC Woodeye crashed into a parked vehicle and landed on the pavement with minor injuries. Police say that it is believed that the shooter is connected to a robbery on Nursey Street.
Reference the aggravated assault report made by Constable Wodai, police arrested and charged Jolil Petio, 24 years of Kika Karajes, for the crime of aggravated assault.
Are they suspects in the robbery that occurred a short time before that?
We believe, yes, that they were part of that robbery. And we are still looking for 2 more persons.
Is there any charges for that?
Not for the robbery as yet, as we are still trying to convince the persons to visit the station to make a report.
There was a minor road traffic accident around 10 this morning. A school bus driven by Lucas Navarro was carrying medical students from Columbus Central University School of Medicine when it overturned near mile 7 on the Philip Golson Highway. Fortunately, no one was seriously injured, but a few students suffered minor injuries. A security guard at Reimer's Feed Mill in Belmopan reported to police that 3 men attempted to break into the business. The watchman told police that in the early hours of Sunday morning, he heard the dog barking, and when he made checks, he saw 3 thieves. The men ran away from the business when the guard fired a warning shot.
Eleuterio Cruz, security guard at the Reimer's Feed Mill in Belmopan, reported that he was alerted by his dog to a particular area. Upon making checks, he observed 3 masked male persons in the compound, at which point he drew his issued 9mm pistol and asked the persons to freeze. Thereafter, the male persons ran away and he fired shots in an attempt to apprehend him. Thereafter, the male persons fired back shots at him and there was an exchange. The 3 male persons managed to escape and were not apprehended. The complainant was not injured and checks were made at the various hospitals and no one came to those institutions with any gunshot injuries. Investigation is ongoing at this time.
Up next, the weekend in sports.
number. Port of Belize Limited, a port with a global perspective.
Sports Monday is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Leadership is about empathy. It's about the ability to connect and relate with others in order to empower people's lives. I am Shari Obando Medina, a councillor and delegate of the San Ignacio and Santa Elena Town Council. I fully endorse the 3 candidates for our UDP convention on February 9th. The Honorable John Saldivar for leader, the Honorable Hugo Pat for first deputy leader, the Honorable Beverly Williams for our second deputy leader. I hereby invite you all to come out and join the UDP family at our national convention on February 9, 2020. See you there.
The way forward.
Are you ready? Pulse's Caribbean Model Search is back. This season's contestants head to Pulse Suites at Villarenai to face relentless competition.
I'll send them all of them.
Pulse stars Arain, Michael Simone, and Alicia will push the hopefuls to the limit.
You guys ready?
Who will grab the top spot and become Pulse's next modeling megastar? Caribbean Model Search returns. Brought to you by Pulse and Ellen Veer.
Okay, students, let's focus now.
Teacher, yes, teacher.
Can anyone tell me what sustainable development means? Ganze?
Huh?
Anybody?
Teacher. Last night my dad was talking about sustainable development and he said something about people and nature and something else. Oh, and money.
That's good. But did you ask your dad what sustainable development really means?
Yes, teacher, but he said I was too young to know what that is. Is it something bad? No, Balisha, it's not bad. It's delicious. Well, at least it looks delicious on the TV. Can I get some? No, Waldo. You're thinking about edible arrangements. That's what you saw, edible arrangements.
Don't laugh, class. Some people get confused with sustainable development. But when we balance the 3 things Padisha said, we achieve sustainable development.
What do you mean by balance, teacher?
It is when people use only the resources they need from the forest, rivers, and sea and leave some resources to grow back again.
But teacher, why do people cut down the nice trees that give us shade and kill the poor animals?
Because people need wood to build houses, food to cook, and water to drink.
But teacher, we have enough trees to get wood and enough plants and animals to get food. Good enough that we can sell them and make money.
That may be so, Waldo. We need money to live. But if we use up all the resources, then there will be none left for our friends and families to see later. Do you think that's fair?
No, teacher. That's being greedy. My mom always tells me to use what I need now and save for rainy days.
Exactly.
Teacher, if we take care of Belize's precious resources and practice sustainable development, we and our children can enjoy all of Belize. That's what I learned from the Department of the Environment when they came to present at our school.
Oh, that's excellent, Waldo.
And we'll be back in a few, so stay tuned.
Thanks, Jen. Hey there, we know you have to head out to work shortly, but don't forget that you can stay tuned by watching us on our Facebook live stream. Find us at Open Your Eyes BC, and you can continue watching there. You can also download Facebook Watch on your streaming device, and you can watch at your own convenience.
And for all the behind-the-scenes fun, follow us on Instagram at OYE Belize. So,
find us
and follow us
today.
So class, let's review your homework. What are some of the things that we can do to make sure everyone has a clean and reliable supply of water?
Sir, we should turn off the faucet when using soap to bathe, to wash our hands, and maybe even our...
Good evening. I'm James Satterley. Welcome to Sports Monday. Let's jump immediately into the PLB closing season as Bandit Sports hosted a red-hot Altitude FC inside the Isidoro Beaton Stadium on Saturday night as the football continues to roll. Folks, Eduardo Andrade in an Altitude uniform would not have an easy outing against the Bandits as Trevor Lennon gives notice. Another journeyman, Mexican Carlos Urtea of Mexico, had a slight hemorrhage through the nose but would stay the course. At the 35th minute, Eduardo Andrade, he receives this ball unattended, so he rifles a right-away left foot that veers outside the near post, forcing Shane O'Rio into a necessary dive. A minute later, Najib Guerra makes this perfect pass to George Coleman, who really should have opened the scoreboard with this diving header from point-blank range. Bandit Sports flirts with disaster with this careless pass to goalkeeper Shane O'Rio, who gets stepped on by Jeffron Apollonio in a battle for possession. And yes, it hurts, but Mr. O'Rio would continue. Some 2 minutes away from intermission, George Welcome gets the call to handle this set piece just above the 18 line, but the launch lands in the hands of goalkeeper Ortiz. 3 minutes after resumption of play, Luis Torres crosses the midfield line to unleash this long-distance floater that inches over the fingers of Shane O'Rio to give Altitude FC a 1-zip lead. It's a beauty, people, that found the keeper too far outside of the goal. Good placement. Jeffron Apollonio then tries to get his with this left foot swing. However, Shane O'Rio is not about to let that happen. Facundo Garnier's corner kick finds George Welcome, who said I give Roberto Silva the perfect opportunity to tie the ball game, but the right foot volley goes awry. Bandit Sports continue to press for the equalizer. George Welcome attacks with this center into the goal mouth, but Alden Foreman gets rid of the threat. Bandit Sports would not come up with the answer through 90 minutes of play. Altitude FC wins 1-0. In other results, Placencia Assassins held front-running Verdes FC to a 1-1 stalemate, while Wagia returned to its winning ways with a 3-1 big W over struggling BDF team. Verdes leads with 8 points. Bandit Sports and Altitude FC are tied at 6 points apiece. Wagia moves up to 5th place with 5 points. Placencia Assassins show 4. Former champion San Pedro continue to struggle with 2 points, and the BDF has yet to earn a point. I guess we still have a long way to go. In basketball news, the Orange Warhawk Multipurpose Complex was abuzz Friday night as the Orange Warhawk Running Rebels hosted the sub-champion Venice Belize Hurricanes. Orange Warhawk ran to a 14-4 lead, a quick 14-4 lead, I should say, in the opening 6.5 minutes. Ashton Edwards, he hooks up with Jamal Kelly, who sinks 2 of his 10 points to get the Hurricanes going. Ashton Edwards would be the big man for the sub-champion Venice Belize Hurricanes Friday night, scoring 7 and 19 from 3-point range to tally a game high. Yes, 24 points. At the end of the first quarter, the Rebels maintained the 10-point lead. When the action resumes, Dajuan Cooper, he grabs this rebound and then hammers it home for 2 of his 11 game points as the Rebels continue to roll. However, Raja Renault was the hitman for OW Friday night. Here he takes on the Hurricanes defense, trooping through the paint for 2. He then beats everyone down court and handles the assist from Sidney Bradley for 2 in a row and would score the team high 20 points. Tyree Orozco also played big, following this ball for the big putback and would finish with 13 points. At the other end, Darwin Carter, he lands the triple to total 10 game points. At the half, Orange Walk Running Rebels lead 40-31. In the third quarter, it's all Running Rebels, and it's more Mr. Renault who handles the feed from Brian White to extend the lead. Ian Rene, he comes up with the steal and goes all the way for 2 of his 7 points. However, it's Mr. Brian White who has the biggest impact on this ball game. Off Orozco's missed shot, he handles the rebound to execute the putback. White then continues to punish his former teammates as he receives the assist from Orozco to slice through traffic for 2 points off the glass. Brian White would post the only 2 doubles of this ball game with the game-high 15 rebounds and 14 points to boot. At the end of 3, the Running Rebels are running away in a 63-47 showing. Orange Walk Running Rebels would roll over Venice Belize Hurricanes in an 85-69 final score, and it is a big surprise. In other results, Belmopan Bandits got past Riga Dream Ballers in a 74-68 decision, while Digi Belize City Defenders defeated Verdes 83-77. Hey folks, that's our show for today. Certainly hope you enjoyed it. We invite you back same time, same place next week. Ja! Overall, I'm James Adderley.
Sports Monday was brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Your bank.
And that's the news. Don't forget that tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5belize.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/News5Live. I'm Marlene Cuellar. Thanks for joining us. And from all of us here at News 5, good night.